From French tenors to Italian divas, from vamp Juliettes to fat Romeos, the silent era was certainly an interesting time for Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Now, if you thought color talkies didn't exist until the late 1920s, you'd be wrong. The earliest synchronized sound system for film actually appeared at the Paris exhibition of 1900 with Phono Cinema Théâtre. Shakespeare happened to be the subject matter for two of the short films that premiered that sound system. One was Sarah Bernhardt playing Hamlet, and the other was Émile Coussara, a French tenor, playing Romeo in the balcony scene. Now, unfortunately, the sound that was supposed to go along with this short segment is lost. But you can still watch Coussara belting it out in front of a very contemporary-looking window with no Juliet in sight. It's a little odd, but it's important for being the first time Romeo appeared on screen. Now, skipping ahead a little bit to 1912 for the Italian take on Shakespeare's classic story of star-crossed lovers. That's the film playing behind me, Romeo e Giulietta. That film stars Francesca Bertini as Juliette, who went on to be known as the first Italian film diva. She plays a very brooding Juliet, but you can definitely see her screen presence. Now, the film doesn't have any sound, but it does have color, sort of. It didn't use color film, but it did use a tinting process using stencils. The look is really quite beautiful, especially when you add in some elaborate costumes and an appropriately Italian setting. The next year worth mentioning is 1916, which happened to be the 300th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death. Because of that anniversary, there were a lot of Shakespeare-related things that came out during that year. One of them, or rather two of them, were dueling Romeo and Juliet films, the first feature-length versions of that story. One of them was made by Metro and starred bodybuilder Francis X. Bushman, who also played Messala in the 1925 Ben-Hur. The other was made by Fox and starred that famous screen vamp Theda Bara as Juliet. Just like the theme of the play, there was definitely a feud going on between these two films, and they were released actually only 3 days apart. Bushman even accused Fox of stealing some of the intertitles used in the Metro version. I really wish I could tell you which one was the better Romeo and Juliet, but alas, just like along with pretty much all the rest of Theda Bara's films, they both are lost. Maybe a print of either or both of them will turn up someday. And then came the Roaring Twenties, which didn't give us any feature-length Romeo and Juliets, but it did give us some pretty comedic takes on the balcony scene. One of these was called A Rarin Romeo and starred rotund actor Walter Heers. The balcony scene in this one I thought was pretty fun. It was an amateur theater group putting on Romeo and Juliet, and Walter Heers is trying to climb up this very rickety, unstable rope ladder up to Juliet in her balcony. However, he's a little on the hefty side, and the balcony flat keeps falling forward with Juliet in it, and all the actors backstage are trying to grab onto a rope and pull it the other way, and it's pretty humorous. Famous director Ernst Lubitsch also tried his hand at Romeo and Juliet, except he made it a comedy set in a small village in the Black Forest. It's a pretty amusing movie, and I thought the whole last section was pretty funny, and I won't ruin it for you in case you would like to see it. It's very readily available on YouTube. It's called Romeo und Julia im Schnee, Romeo and Juliet in the Snow. Now, the fascinating thing about silent Shakespeare is that when you divorce the beautiful, complex, poetic language from just the characters and the settings and the images suggested by his works, you still have something really powerful and really wonderful to watch. So it's interesting that Shakespeare's stories really survive even cutting out his language, which is arguably the most important thing about a Shakespeare play. But certainly the image of Mercutio and Tybalt fighting in the streets and the image of Romeo making his advances to Juliet in her balcony are just so beautiful in their own right as moving images. If you want to read about these and other silent film adaptations of Romeo and Juliet, you can go to my blog at wondrouswell.wordpress.com.